Everyone, and welcome back to the Offside Opinions podcast. I'm Ashray Neotia.
And I'm Levi Noah.
And we'll jump right in with a recap of last week's games.
So, starting off with the Saturday games, the Texans lost to the Chiefs 14-23. A lot of people would say this one was rigged by the refs. There's a lot of controversy going on about that right now. And while there were definitely some bad calls in that game, I would not say it was entirely the refs' fault. I think it was largely the Texans' special teams' fault and largely the Texans' O-line's fault.
I mean, look, it's possible. Okay, I won't disagree with you on that. I will disagree with you on one thing, though. It was kind of the refs' fault. Come on now.
Okay, there were definitely some game-changing penalties that were called that were not correct. I'm not denying that. However, it would have made a bigger difference if Kaimi Fairbairn hadn't had his kicks blocked or hadn't missed extra points or basic things like that should be happening every time that just were not happening for the Texans.
Okay. Given all the missed kicks, all right, Kaimi Fairbairn has struggled this season,
Mm-hmm.
all right, so he has missed kicks. The Texans know that. You cannot possibly tell me that calling a roughing the passer when the dude is literally right in front of the quarterback and is about to hit him when the quarterback throws the ball, he's already in the forward momentum of doing so. That does not warrant a roughing the passer.
No, it doesn't. I'm not denying that it doesn't. But it wasn't like that was going to make the Texans win.
Okay, it's a field goal.
Yeah.
So change the score from, 14-23?
Yeah.
To 14-20.
Yep.
Okay? Then, Mahomes is out of bounds. The Texans then push him. The classic 1-2 unnecessary roughness call.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs proceed to get a touchdown that drive.
Yep.
Plus the extra point.
Yep.
Take those 7 points away.
Wait, what? Do you remember what I think they were like midfield-ish when that happened?
They were at, I think, like the 45, their own 45.
Yeah, okay.
But if they don't get that,
Yeah.
then it's fourth down, and the Chiefs probably punt. That's 7 points gone. It's then 13-14.
Yeah, but also you take into account they would have played a lot harder for the rest of the game, so they probably still would have scored, given how hot they were looking offensively.
But still, I mean, you cannot.
They still would have won. It would have been closer for sure, but
like you cannot take that as a like, oh, they're gonna try harder. Oh, they're not gonna try.
Okay,
harder.
well, a safety probably would have never happened. For sure, I would.
Well,
probably say
I would
that.
probably think a safety would happen specifically because if the punt is like that, then I mean you saw what happened, right? The Vikings or was it the Vikings who got safetied, or who got safetied?
Well, I was referring to the Chiefs getting.
No, I know that. I'm thinking. I know a team was down when they got safety by a team that was just up.
Oh, you're referring to the Vikings Rams with the face mask?
No, not the face mask one. It was a different one. I thought last wild card weekend didn't somebody get safetied? Or was that this? Oh, or was that that was Washington and Detroit? Now I remember.
Oh.
Yeah, just like prime time Saturday, Washington and Detroit. I mean, Detroit was down, but they still got safety, so it's not impossible that it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyway,
potentially rigged. It didn't help that the Texans had almost no pass protection. CJ Stroud's stats reflected that.
Of course, buddy. You're going to say that, Mahomes. It's okay. Then the Chiefs. I mean, Travis Kelce's back.
For sure.
Just about all you can say is Travis Kelce's back.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? 5 receptions, 120 yards, a TD.
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco is not back is the main thing that will be affecting them going forward.
I mean, you still have a decent workhorse running back.
Kareem Hunt. Yeah, Kareem Hunt's.
I mean, you can't expect 100 yards or anything from him, but what you can expect is him to barrel into the goal line and get a touchdown just about every game. So that's not really the issue. The issue is just you're not going to get those kind of quality runs that you want that you would get with Pacheco when Pacheco runs mad. So that might be a little focus point for them in the offseason. Getting the running back situation a little upgraded.
The James Cook rumors are kind of going
James
along
Cook
with
to
that.
the Chiefs, what? But also that wide receiver room is still pitiful. But yeah, Kelce makes up for that, kind of. Onwards to the next game, which is
Commanders Lions 45-31.
the Lions are frauds.
Specifically Jared Goff. Absolutely.
Jared Goff is a fraud. I told y'all that.
Yep.
So many podcasts have been sitting in this seat saying Jared Goff is a fraud. The Lions are frauds. Just wait till the playoffs. He will fail.
Yep.
He will fail. He will fail. This was the moment he folded.
Yeah,
3 picks, 1 fumble, safety, and then Jameson Williams threw a pick.
Yeah.
That is basically the Lions' entire playoff story summarized.
Yep. So, the NFC North collapse was hideous. I mean, going into the season with everyone talking about it being potentially one of the greatest divisions of all time, it definitely ended in an ugly way considering that.
The NFC North is completely fraudulent.
The Vikings will be back next season. Mark
Frauds. They're all frauds.
No.
Packers, frauds. Vikings, frauds. Lions, mega frauds. Jared Goff, ultimate fraud.
Wait till we get to the Rams.
Sam Darnold,
I'll be doing
ultimate.
some hating. So, the Lions definitely turned the ball over a lot, which Jaden Daniels, people talking about him having the best rookie season of all time.
It's up there. I'm not going to say
if he goes to the Super Bowl, definitely. However, this game alone is not grounds enough to say that because his defense handed him some great field positions.
His defense did hand him some great field positions, but I'm not going to let that take away from Jaden Daniels. Every time it seemed like it was a crunch situation, he was poised, he was confident, he made the right read, he made the right throw.
Yep.
I think for a rookie, he's playing like he's a vet. And I know that's basically what everybody is saying is that for a rookie, he looks like a vet.
Yep.
But, he played phenomenally. There were no errors made by him. I mean, even in the Bucs game, he didn't really make any errors whatsoever. And I think that kind of poise is really going to be effective against the Eagles. Because, you're not letting the Detroit fans get you. Mm-hmm. You're not letting the Bucs fans get to you. I don't think they're going to let the Eagles fans get to them either. But all that to be said, I really am excited to see what the Commanders can do.
Yeah. You look at the record against the Eagles so far this year, and it's not great. But also, and we'll cover this a little bit more in the next game, the Eagles are looking pretty weak offensively besides Saquon Barkley. So, obviously, Saquon Barkley will be a big problem for the Commanders' defense. But other than that, given they picked off the Lions as many times as they did, I think they'll have a pretty good time taking care of the Eagles' pass game. Yeah,
I don't think Jalen Hurts' pass game is going to improve really in the next game. Yeah. If anything, it might improve for the Super Bowl, but even that I'm doubting now.
Yeah.
If, of course, they get to the Super Bowl. But for sure, Saquon ripped off 2 huge runs. Jalen Hurts ripped off a huge run. That's really why they won. Mm-hmm. But, I don't think the Eagles are going to make the Super Bowl. I think the Commanders have a better shot at it. I know the odds and people are all going to say otherwise, but I think the Commanders have a better shot. But we'll cover that in the next one, which is just going to be Eagles and the Rams.
Mm-hmm. So, the score was 28-22, and as you were telling me earlier today, it could have been a lot closer if it wasn't for the Rams taking so long to warm up to the weather. No pun intended. It was, and it's reflected they're playing in the bad weather so far this year has just not been good at all. I think, I proposed maybe they should, during the off season, take a trip to somewhere with very extreme weather conditions and just play football and get used to it because they have such slow games offensively whenever the ball is even remotely slippery. There were fumbles, there were interceptions, there were easy catches dropped, easy passes missed. What?
That wasn't an interception.
There wasn't? Okay, well, missed easy passes, fumbles like crazy. Really sloppy.
You look at the stats, all right? I'm going to pull the stats into here. Sure, stats don't say the whole story. Matthew Stafford was 26 for 44. He threw 2 touchdowns, and he threw for 344 yards. To me, that's a good game.
Yeah, especially considering how much they picked it up in the second half.
Now, the issue is that Kyren Williams, he had 101 rushing yards. He didn't really do much past that, though.
Yeah.
And
that was all late game again.
Yeah, and especially, here's the difference, is the Eagles, they ripped off 3 huge runs, like I was saying earlier. Saquon had 2, and Jalen Hurts got 1.
Yeah.
That kind of, that run game of theirs is so effective that the Rams D-line, despite getting Jalen Hurts sacked 6 times, still couldn't manage to stay in the game and prevent those runs.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like they were playing horrible, the Rams D-line. It was just that Saquon Barkley would fake like he was going inside and then bounce outside, and no one's seeing that coming.
Yeah, because they're all young rookies.
Yeah. And
if there was Aaron Donald there, I guarantee you he wouldn't get a single one of those 70-yard runs. Because Donald would have chased him down all the field, probably gone to him, or he would have just stuffed him before he even got 3 yards into the run. But it's also a testament to how good that O-line is. I heard they got a 6'7" dude in that O-line who basically just waltzes down the field and then pancakes somebody, and then waltzes further down the field and then pancakes somebody else. And based off what I saw, that was pretty accurate. I mean, he did just kind of pancake a couple people there. But it must be so nice having that kind of O-line.
Yeah. Yeah, Saquon Barkley is definitely relieved coming from New York.
Yeah. You give the Rams that O-line, I think Kyren Williams rips off 70-yard runs, not Saquon.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was a good game play by both teams, for the most part.
Yeah, once the Rams finally started.
Yeah, we played hurry-up offense too late, and it just kind of it worked, and then at the end, we tried to get, I don't know what Stafford was doing with that last throw.
The 4th down.
Yeah, he might have been trying to get a penalty drawn. It wasn't remotely close to Puka.
It looked like he was throwing it away. I was so confused.
It was just, I don't think that was the right read. Moreover, I don't think that was the right play.
Yeah.
But that's whatever. We got further than we thought we were going to get 5 games into the season when we were 1-4.
Yeah.
So it's been a great season. It's fine.
Yeah.
For the Eagles, what's next? The Commanders. They need to figure out how to stop an actual versatile quarterback. All right, the Lions clearly had problems doing that, and the Eagles. I mean, with them, it's with the Rams, it's easy because Stafford isn't going to run, so you have no point having a QB spy out there.
Yeah,
you can just either send an extra guy into the O-line, or you can have a second guy out in the secondary. Now, the issue with the Commanders is that Jane Daniels is perfectly capable of getting out of the pocket if you blitz, or he's perfectly capable of torching you if you don't have a QB spy.
Yeah, I think they need to have QB spies because their pass defense has been good enough that I think they can afford to send some people forward. Yeah, that's going to be the biggest key.
On the offensive side of balls, on the offensive side of the ball, they'd really need to focus on getting A.J. Brown the ball, getting Devonta Smith the ball, getting Dallas Goedert the ball.
Yeah, those were the main successful plays, was Dallas Goedert.
And maybe limiting the workhorse that Saquon is.
Yeah.
He's rushed, I think, in the playoffs so far, he had 26 in both games, around 26 in both games. Which, if you think about that, that's, 50 carries? We'll just guess together 50? I mean, he's a workhorse back, don't get me wrong, but there's a limit to how much you want to workhorse him because he also was in pain with his left hand, I think, during that game. You don't want to limit his possible availability for the Super Bowl by just continually rushing the ball. Yeah,
the Commanders have a not a great run defense, so I think
Jahmyr
get
Gibbs,
a rush in here and there, and it'll be successful enough that you don't have to be doing it a lot.
On the Lions game, Jahmyr Gibbs had 108 yards and 2 TDs.
Not to mention all the Jameson Williams runs they got going.
Yeah, so I think that's the recipe for beating the Commanders is running the ball, but not just Saquon and Jalen Hurts. Use the jet sweeps with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Do a check down to Saquon, give blockers, have him push the ball up. Maybe do a Dallas Goedert kind of pick scenario where he comes, screens off a guy, and A.J. Brown goes off of it like they sometimes do, and then give a Hurts to A.J. Brown, easy little connection there for some yards.
Yeah, or do some, QB design runs.
Yeah, like some of these, sprinkle in the runs with the passes and put more passes into it. Get Hurts to throw the ball around 30, 35 times. I know rushing works, but again, Saquon's availability is the main concern here, not really how many times you actually rush the ball.
Because whoever they play in the Super Bowl, either way, I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to, if they go to the Super Bowl, either way, I don't think their pass game is going to be great. I think they need Saquon at 110% for that game.
I agree. Onwards to the next game and last game.
Ravens-Bills, 25-27 final
The Ravens
score.
are frauds. True.
No, it's not true. Lamar Jackson let the pressure get to his head.
I'm messing around.
Fumbled the ball.
The only person that's a fraud on that team is Mark Andrews is a fraud.
Yeah, definitely try and trade Mark Andrews away. Isaiah Likely's a good enough receiving tight end at this point.
I still don't understand why in the 2-point conversion scenario you're letting Mark Andrews run that little fade route, okay? Yeah. He's missed it before. I learned from a friend today that he had, what was it?
I think it was 2 previous times.
No, 3 previous times.
Yeah.
3 previous times of that same route, and he just doesn't get it in 2-point conversions in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't learned, just learn by history. It doesn't work. Send somebody else on that route. Mm-hmm. You could have easily sent Isaiah Likely on that route.
And he had a great game the entire
And he
day,
would probably still be open, and it would probably be a different scenario you're looking at right now.
Yep.
For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. He's an MVP candidate, right? The voting's already done. I'm guessing he might have won it. Okay? Mm-hmm. If between Allen and Lamar, my pick would be Lamar, but because of the media narratives, I could see it being Allen. But the only issue I have with Lamar right now is every time it becomes a clutch game, he seems to be the first one to fold.
Yeah, which it was snowing in that game too.
But it wasn't on the level.
The Ravens are at least used to it.
It was on the level of the Eagles.
And that too, yeah.
It was just like a light little drizz, like a light little flurry, that's what you call them, in Buffalo. It wasn't like in the Eagles where it was like literally the ground is about to be completely covered.
You couldn't even see the yard lines anymore. Yeah.
But, I think that's what I have with Lamar is if he can prove that, yes, I am capable like Joe Burrow to take a team, beat the Chiefs, beat the Bills, get to the Super Bowl. Burrow did that in Super Bowl 56 when it was his third year.
Yeah.
He had a phenomenal year. Lamar, he's had good years.
Yeah, he's definitely had good years. He just needs to cross the line and actually complete a season.
And for Baltimore's defense, they didn't get cooked. It was just Buffalo, like the Commanders, had great field position, and then also they were on the field so much because of the turnovers that at the end of the day they got tired and they let up. What was it? How many points they let up? Mm-hmm. For Buffalo.
Yeah, offensively, you look at the stats. It wasn't the best day ever, but they were definitely controlling the game from the beginning. They were playing smart. They were keeping possession of the ball, finishing drives with points. It was a much more well-rounded showing on the part of the Bills, and I think they've definitely improved since the past couple of years. I think this year is probably their best chance of beating the Chiefs.
This is the person with the Patrick Mahomes wig on.
I didn't choose that the Vikings did that.
Offensively, the Bills played pretty well offensively. Mm-hmm. Of course, it helped they had great field position, but they played pretty well. We'll give them that. I think for sure they had some great catches at great moments. I think maybe a little bit more of Allen running, maybe a little bit more James Cook sprinkled into there, and I think that's a good formula for them.
More Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he might have. Was he hurt? I think he was dealing with something. Hopefully that'll be resolved.
He still played phenomenally.
Yeah.
For the defense, though, they almost let Baltimore back in the game.
Almost.
It was close.
Yeah.
They got lucky. But I think against the Chiefs now, the defense just has to make sure that they lock up Travis Kelce. If they lock up Travis Kelce and they don't let DeAndre Hopkins start to somehow get hot again.
Yeah.
I think that they will advance to the Super Bowl. Now, of course, my fraud and the refs might, of course, somehow devil magic their way into the Super Bowl, which would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
But hopefully the scriptwriter isn't that mean to us. Like, come on.
I did read an article though, just before this, where it went over what ref was officiating that game, and apparently the Chiefs have a really bad record with that ref. So maybe they're not paying that ref. We'll see.
Scriptwriter?
Yeah.
And our faith we put in your hands.
Yeah.
But onwards to our picks for this week's championship games. So from the NFC, it is the Eagles and the Commanders. Commanders at Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have?
It'll be a close one. I think, contrary to most people's expectations, I think this one will be low scoring because of the Eagles' past game struggles and because of how good the Eagles' secondary is as well. But I think the Commanders will win just because they'll be able to, it'll be close, but once it gets to the fourth quarter, Jaden Daniels will come in clutch and he'll start getting those big plays going again, and I think it'll be a Commanders win.
I disagree. Not with the Commanders win part. I really want the Commanders to win. I hate the Eagles. I hate their fan base too. But I think it's going to be a really high scoring game. Why? Because not only do I think that Eagles secondary is going to get torched this game. I know, right? Hot take there.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Commanders secondary is going to be able to handle that many people if they decide to not just run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If the Eagles decide just to run the ball, I totally agree with you. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. But, yeah, I'm on the fence about that. Maybe not high-scoring game. Commanders win, though. I really want that to happen. Why? I already told you. I hate the Eagles and their fan base.
Well, and I want to see a rookie in the Super Bowl, man. That would be awesome.
I mean, yeah, we saw that with, Purdy? We saw that with Brady. Well, of course, we weren't alive then, but last time a rookie got to the Super Bowl, it didn't really end well, did it, for Purdy?
Yeah. No. But also...
did they get to the Super Bowl year? Or was that...
No, that wasn't his rookie year.
Oh, that was the Eagles who got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That
was the Eagles year.
The last time we saw a rookie in the NFC Championship game, it did not go well for them. Why? Because Purdy tore his whatever ligament that was in his arm. I forget the name of it. But do you remember that?
I do not know the name of the ligament.
No, do you remember what I'm referencing with Purdy hurt his arm? Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't happen to Jane Daniels. Yeah, they were on their fourth
string after that. Yeah, that did not end well.
Hopefully it doesn't happen to Jane Daniels because, I mean, it's been a great rookie season. Some would argue one of the best in NFL history. But, yeah, it was a heck of a year.
Mm-hmm.
Onwards to the Bills-Chiefs. I mean...
yeah, we'll see. I really want the Bills to finally invest the Chiefs in this one. Like I said, I did not choose for the Vikings to be a first-round exit. I think, though, that the Chiefs will win, even if the refs aren't rigging it, with who the ref is in this game. I think the black magic will come in clutch again. They'll block kicks and stuff. It's just going to be ridiculous.
I think the Chiefs will win. As much as it hurts saying that, I really want the Bills to win. But I don't see... I mean, the Bills played a great defense in the Ravens, okay? It was one of the best defenses. I don't see Patrick Mahomes making the same kind of errors that Lamar did. So, therefore, I don't see the Chiefs' defense playing as badly as the Ravens' defense did in that game. And for that reason, I think that the Bills will actually get locked up this game. I think the Chiefs' defense is going to learn from their mistakes of what happened back in week, 4, 5, 6, around there, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs' offense is, of course, then the playoff offense, which is phenomenally better.
Completely different for the Chiefs, yeah.
It's totally better than what their regular season was.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see Patrick Mahomes making the same kind of errors. I don't see, Kareem Hunt or Travis Kelce making any errors. I see this being a good game, but I see the Chiefs winning this game.
Yeah.
Now, I mean... offensively, if there are miscues for the Chiefs, probably going to be the Bills. Defensively, there's miscues, probably going to be the Bills.
Yeah,
But if the Chiefs play the type of game that I think
there.
they're going to play, then I think it's going to be the Chiefs moving on.
Yeah.
So, onwards to our call-ins. I will be putting the number in the chat. Sorry, give me 1 second.
I want to hear some angry Ravens fans on these call-ins.
You want to hear angry Ravens fans?
Yep.
I want to hear angry Rams fans. Okay, there's no Rams fans.
No Rams fans out there.
And it's unfortunate. We live in LA. If it'll let me get to the chat in un momento. So I put the number in the chat. Y'all can call in if y'all want. We'll move on. You probably have around a good 10-15 minutes to call in. So if you want to call in, be my guest. Super Bowl winner picks. Who do you have?
Most likely the Chiefs. It's unfortunately, I think that a three-peat is inevitable at this point. With how just inevitable they've looked all year. You know, it's agonizingly close every game, but at the same time, you know, they're controlling the ball every game.
It's just enough. It's kind of the thing that's just
Yeah.
happening with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'll represent a conspiracy theory. What if the Super Bowl logo tells us, like, the actual teams that will be in there? I know this was a conspiracy theory last year. It got blown out of the water because, the Ravens didn't make it. But there was red in there, and 2 red teams made it. The year before that, it was green and red. It ended up being Chiefs, Eagles. Year before that, it was, what was it? Orange and yellow. That was the Rams and the Bengals. I
thought it was red and yellow.
I thought it was more orange than it was red.
Yeah, it might have been between the two.
I mean, just saying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, apart from all those conspiracy theories, which, to be fair, I don't think that that's accurate anymore, but
Yeah.
whatever. I'm going to just list off the matchups that are possible, and I'm just going to pick the winner of each. If it's Chiefs-Eagles, Chiefs.
All the way.
If it's Chiefs-Commanders, Chiefs. If it's Bills-Eagles, Eagles. If it's Bills-Commanders, I'm not going to pick the Bills. I'm going to pick the Commanders.
I think the only one I disagree with is if it's Bills-Eagles, I totally see the Bills winning that one.
Well, the reason why I don't see the Bills winning that one is just because their defense, I mean, sure, it has a pretty decent D-line,
That's
but
true.
the secondary is an issue for them.
Yeah.
And also with the D-line, it's like they have Von Miller, and then after that, it kind of just gets bad.
Yeah.
And I could totally see their O-line, the Eagles' O-line, just completely blasting the Bills just back and then letting Saquon run. And then on the flip side of things, I don't see James Cook getting heated in that game if it's a Bills-Eagles game. Because, I mean, they got Jalen Carter up there, and their D-line is pretty solid. Plus, in the secondary with Darius Slay and C.J. Gardner-Johnson,
Yeah.
I don't see, like, how Khalil Shakir, maybe Dalton Kincaid, I don't see how they all start becoming good. It's going to have to be Allen doing a lot with his legs.
Yeah.
But then if you just put a couple QB spies there, I don't see how that works. But it's possible, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's going to happen. Is Travis Kelce back?
I mean, it is definitely hard to disagree with the fact that, like, the Mahomes-Kelce chemistry is back. Like, on that one particular touchdown I'm thinking of where he was, like, falling forward and just chucked it forward and Kelce was right there somehow. That's definitely back. Travis Kelce, like, and his old route running, like, receiving tight end abilities, we'll see, I guess. I think, the Texans didn't defend him the best. It didn't help that he was breaking a lot of tackles, too. We'll see when he plays a slightly better, like, tight end defense, but I think he is.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say that he's not back when he just has, like, 110 yards, just a TD, a couple catches, and it's like all season he's done nothing, but then suddenly he just becomes... Boop. It could be a one-time luck kind of thing, but with them in the past, it's like you bet against them and they kind of come back and bite you.
Yeah.
So it might be possible that he's back. I won't put it past it. Does Mark Andrews need to be traded?
Absolutely. It'll save them money. It'll get Isaiah Likely more involved, which is going to be more beneficial for their team as a whole. And they won't waste they won't waste games targeting him on 2-point conversions that decide the game when he's just going to drop it, They'll be more open to targeting their other receivers. Like Rashad Bateman, I don't feel like got enough, didn't get involved enough in that game. And
he's their deep threat target. He's like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
Or like the Rashid Shaheed of the Baltimore Ravens. He is the guy that if they get involved deep, it can be one heck of a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, so that, just getting a washed target out of the way. Like, everyone's always like, he's Lamar's favorite target. And while that might not be the case anymore, especially after his injuries last year, he's definitely still taking up targets that I feel like would be better spent elsewhere.
Look, he's still a good player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's not the elite player that he once was, but he's definitely good enough to where, you move him from the Ravens maybe to a team that's a little worse, and I can see him doing better with that team than he would with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like there's under pressure, he doesn't perform well, and I think he's been under pressure too much now to where he's not performing as well as you want him to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Now, earlier I had written, does Mark Andrews need to be released? I mean, he said that was too far.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think that's also a possibility just because of the dead cap hit, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. The last thing that we'll be doing, so if you're calling in, you better hurry up. I mean, you probably have a good 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Our head coach grades from the entire year. We're going to rank the firings, and then we're going to rank how each head coach is of each NFL team. So the Mike McCarthy fired by the Cowboys on January 13th.
Absolutely merited.
So absolutely merited. So A+.
Yeah. I mean, well, A. I don't know if I give it an A+ because it definitely doesn't solve all their problems, but it's a step in the right direction for sure.
Okay, so A.
Yeah.
I think it's Jerry Jones one time doing something right. Maybe,
yeah, for once.
Yeah, it's. I agree. It'd probably be an A, between an A and A+ probably for me.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson.
A++.
Fired by the Jaguars on January 6th.
I cannot give that one enough pluses.
I said this for so long. I remember 3 or 4 back-to-back weeks. I was like, why is Doug Peterson not fired yet?
Yeah.
Why is Doug Peterson not fired yet? Finally, they fired him. It took so long. It took a season where they won 3 games to fire him. Thank God.
Yeah. That one will definitely solve. I think that'll solve most of their problems.
It probably will.
Yeah.
But especially if they get somebody like Aaron Glenn or Brian Flores to be their head coach, it will solve a lot of their problems.
Because especially if that's the case, that'll fix up their defense too, which is a major weak point this year.
Third, Antonio Pierce, fired by the Raiders on January 7th.
I give that one probably a B because it wasn't a pressing issue. It was just that, it's something that needs to be done. That's one of many things on their bucket list of to-dos that they need to do before their team has a chance.
I think you're being generous. I'm giving that a D. Straight up, I'm giving that a D. You gave the man one good player on your roster. That's Brock Bowers on offense.
Yeah.
Defensively,
Max
you gave him a
Crosby.
pretty solid defense, okay? But only a solid defensive line. They don't really have that good of a secondary either. I think that right there is why he was set up to fail. I mean, you're giving the guy Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as his quarterbacks, and you're expecting him to somehow go 9-8.
Yeah.
He's a first-time head coach. You cannot expect that of him. Much less, he has to take a team that basically went 4-12 last year, and then turn it into a team that goes 9-8 with basically the same players in Brock Bowers, and that one defensive player they added in the offseason.
I think the main reason I gave it a B was because he was never really intended to be a long-time head coach. I think he just got them through a couple sloppy years. And, he at least made Brock Bowers develop. I think that if they wanted a real chance to succeed, they had to get rid of him.
They might have had to get rid of him, but considering who they moved on from earlier, Not
Yeah.
a good coach.
Yeah.
They got 60 dropped on them by the Chargers.
No, they dropped 60.
I
on
mean,
the
they
Chargers.
dropped 60 on the
Yeah,
Chargers after he was fired.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry, I flipped that in my brain. Like, come on. But anyhow, yeah, I think it's I don't think it's a good move. But if in the long term it plays off dividends, it might. Who knows? But for right now, I don't think it's a good move.
I think the main thing I disagreed with it was something else should have been changed first. It was definitely something on the to-do list for success, but I think they needed to fix some other problems first.
Next up, Gerard Mayo, fired by the Patriots on January 5th.
I give that a D. I can't give it an F because they didn't exactly have a great season, or they didn't they didn't have they didn't have a great season, but he definitely deserved a chance. Like they might not have looked great, but he also literally only had Drake May to work with. So
I agree. I won't say he just had Drake May to work with. I'll also give it a D. I completely agree with that. But he also had Christian Gonzalez. I mean, sure, the Patriots defense hasn't really been the best, but it was a mid defense compared to other defenses.
yeah,
Offensively, I feel like if they had given him more weapons to work with apart from Drake May and the washed-up soul of Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like the Patriots would have been a team that could have gone 9-8 or 10-7. I don't think it was Gerard Mayo's fault that they were failing. I think he was just set up to fail and then fired.
yeah.
Moving on, Matt Eberflus, fired by the Bears mid-season.
A+. I'm not gonna give it a million pluses because it wasn't quite as bad as Doug Peterson, but definitely a good firing, especially given the time that it occurred.
I'm going to give it an A-. Here's why. Under Eberflus, after firing Eberflus, they still didn't win a game. So it didn't change a thing until week 18, where they finally beat the Packers. Congrats, you beat the Packers when they're
With
all
Jordan
basically,
Love out,
basically they're all resting their starters. But I understand the logic after that terrible clock management. I agree with the logic because of the terrible clock management. I just think that under Eberflus, they were better off than they were after what happened. I think
That's
they should
true.
have fired him at the end of the season when they could have pointed out the time clock management, and they could have pointed out the fact that we were a good enough team. We gave you all the pieces. You just didn't make anything happen.
Yeah. Well, and I guess firing him at the end of the season would at least give Caleb Williams a consistent.
Like if this was an end of the season firing, I'd probably agree with you and been like, this is an A+ firing. But the mid-season firing and then just losing all those games afterwards, I can't agree with that. Robert Saleh, fired by the Jets in early October.
I'm gonna give that one a B-. It was definitely a long time in coming. Like people were like, yeah, he's in the hot seat coming into this season if he doesn't get something going. But at the same time, he's given 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles tear to work with. I don't know that it was entirely his fault.
I'm going to give this one a solid F.
Really?
Like a straight up F. After he left, the Jets were just as bad.
Well, you don't expect it to improve immediately.
Well, no, fine. Granted that. The defense got worse. The
Definitely.
offense got worse. Let's see. When was the next time they won a game after firing him? It wasn't immediately after, I don't think. It was a little while after.
Yeah.
Also, apart from all of that, I still firmly believe this was a scapegoat firing. They needed somebody to weed out of the organization who they could blame and tell the media that this was the reason why we were losing, and Saleh was the guy who happened to be that guy.
Yeah.
I completely disagree with this firing. I think it could have been another Matt Eberflus situation where they fire him at the end of the season. But if anything, I think they should have kept him around and actually got him a better quarterback to work with. I mean, you give the guy Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. And that's two, and Aaron Rodgers is coming off. So, yeah. Dennis Allen, fired by the Saints on November 4th.
I think I'll give that one either between a B+ and an A, because he was definitely asking for it, and it was a long time in coming again, but the only real kind of problem I had with it was that, it was mid-season. The season was already over pretty much with all the injuries they had. I think they needed to finish out the season, make it less of a dumpster fire for the rest of the season.
I'm going to give this one a solid A minus. Okay? It was a long time in coming. I mean, last year, Dennis Allen didn't do well.
Yeah.
The year before that, Dennis Allen still didn't do well. I mean, since Sean Payton left, they've just kind of been going downhill. All right? I think this was the culmination of that downhillness. Now, I mean, if they actually get a competent head coach, I could totally see them being better and actually making the playoffs and winning the NFC South. But, yeah, I totally agree with this firing. This was a great firing. Recent hires. Grade these. Mike Vrabel, hired by the Patriots on January 12th.
He is Mike Vrabel's a former Patriot, right?
Right. I think he's a former Patriots tight end, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so that'll definitely be interesting to see. I think he'll be good enough, but I don't know how well really I don't think he's had any coaching positions really before this, right?
No, he's been the Titans head coach.
Oh.
I think he got fired by the Titans.
Oh, okay.
But they made the playoffs with Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and then a solid defense a few years back. I don't remember exactly which year, but he was the coach then of them.
Okay. Yeah, then in that case, I think I'll give that one A minus. We'll see where it goes.
I'll give this a solid A. I like the Vrabel hiring. Okay, first off, Tyjae Spears is better than Ramondre Stevenson. I probably wouldn't, but I could see people arguing that. Just all they need to focus on this draft. Vrabel and the GM get weapons for Drake May, and then strengthen that D line and that O line up. Maybe if you have a pick later, get a running back in the later.
Or a free agent running back.
Yeah, or in the tail end or in free agency, get a running back. But I think the more and more rookie weapons they try to get in, the better it'll be for them in the longer run especially. And also I think Vrabel has proved he can take a team to the playoffs. I think that's what's going to happen here. Now, the Bears. January 20th. They hired Ben Johnson.
I think that's a great move. I think, their defense is good enough as is. They need a good offensive mind, especially given, the offense that he has to work with. They need a real strong offensive mind. And I think that'll go really well, especially, it's gone really well with the Lions. Yeah, I think that'll carry over with the Bears.
I'm going to give this an A+. I love this hiring. Yeah. This is perfect. Caleb Williams gets, I think, one of the best offensive coordinators in the league to work with. Mm-hmm. The offense itself I think is going to perform at a very, very high level next year.
Yeah.
Especially considering they literally have better weapons than the Lions did. Mm-hmm. They have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze.
Not to mention
Cole Kmet.
Yeah, Cole Kmet, that's right.
But yeah, I love this hiring. I think this is going to be a perfect fit. I think the only thing that might be a slight hitch is the defense, but if they manage to get a good DC along with Ben Johnson for the head coach, I think this will be a perfect fit.
If it doesn't go well, it's not his fault, it's Caleb Williams' fault. Yeah.
Of course, we're just going to blame the quarterback.
Well, no, it'll be how we know whether he was actually a major draft
I got you. I mean, even if Caleb Williams ends up having a great season where he has 4,000 yards and a 32 touchdown to 8 interception kind of season, and they still don't do well, then I think it's going to be more of a defensive issue probably. But we'll see. Now, for the next portion of this, which is just all the head coaches of all the teams, we're just going to give straight rankings, A+, B-, how they did this season.
Last chance for Collins.
Exactly. Last chance for Collins too. Arizona Cardinals. Head coach is Jonathan Gannon.
I think that's a B. They kind of disappointed expectations this year, especially with not targeting. That's the main reason, specifically the coach, I give it B. A lot of the problems were Kyler Murray, but this is on the coach for not targeting Marvin Harrison more. I think that was also a large contributor to their.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a B-. I agree with Eli on the Marvin Harrison topic. I also want to say that 5-6 weeks into the season, they were looking like they were going to make the playoffs. And then after their bye week, they just completely regressed. I think it's a little bit on the head coach there. But given the team, given everything he was given to work with, I think a B- is pretty solid for this guy. Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris. I agree. F-. This was a terrible fall off. I mean, they had the division by 2 games, right? Yeah. And the Bucs were just like, Mike Evans is back. Yeah. Move aside. And the Falcons were just like, okay. And they just move aside. I mean, F-. If he doesn't figure it out next year, I think he's fired.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely one of the hottest seats in the NFL right now.
The Ravens, John Harbaugh.
I give that one probably an A, maybe an A-. It was still an amazing season. It ended on a sore note, but that wasn't really related to the head coach, I don't think.
I'm going to give it A- here. I mean, great job. I'm just going to say great job. You got as far as you want. I want to see Lamar Jackson produce under pressure, and I think Harbaugh needs to put him under pressure for him to actually be able to do that. The Bills, McDermott.
I give that one an A, maybe an A+. This was a great season, especially given how few offensive targets it looked like they were having going into the season. This was just great development for Khalil Shakir. You know, I think the only disappointment offensively was Dalton Kincaid, but they had Dawson Knox available as well. So overall, fantastic year.
Yeah, A+. A+ for me too. The Panthers, Dave Canales. I'm going to say this, all right? After he took out Bryce Young, I don't know what he did with Bryce Young, but he made Bryce Young actually start playing really, really high level of football in the second part of the season.
I think that's what redeems him for sure. I think I give him a B.
For sure. I'm going to give him a B+ actually, just for that.
Yeah.
But I think they could be scary soon.
Yeah.
The Bears, Ben Johnson. We haven't really seen anything, so we're not going to grade it. We already graded above. Yeah. Or earlier, I mean. Bengals, Zach Taylor. Like, if I could do anything lower than F, I would love to. But F- to be like a millionth power. This was the worst season I've seen from the Bengals so far. And I'm going to pin all of it on Zach Taylor and failing to prepare the defense.
Yeah, failing to prepare the defense is definitely their biggest problem this year. I don't know, given how well their offense played, you know, obviously that was largely Joe Burrow carrying. So I'm going to give him a D for that.
All right, moving on. Browns, Kevin Stefanski. When you're giving Deshaun Watson, I can't really expect from you a lot. But when you're starting Deshaun Watson willingly, I'm knocking you down to a D-.
Yeah, I'm going to give him, D range as well. Especially, like, why did you bench Jameis Winston? That too.
All right, the Cowboys, they fired Mike McCarthy. Vacant right now. Moving on. Broncos, Sean Payton. For what he did with Bo Nix's development, especially in the second half of the season, kind of like Dave Canales, and with the Broncos making the playoffs, I'm going to give Sean Payton a solid B+.
Yeah, I'm going to give him maybe even an A-, given, competitive division, rookie quarterback. I think that deserves a good grade.
The Lions, Dan Campbell. The Lions are frauds. Jared Goff's a fraud.
I'm going to give him an A-, just because calling that trick play, especially the moment that he called it in, that kind of tanked his grade a little bit.
I'm giving him a B+. Solid season.
Yeah.
Just the Lions are frauds. The Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur. I don't think this guy gets enough respect for what he does.
Yeah, I think just for how well he coached this team, B+. They didn't have the best season.
Yeah, they didn't have the best season, don't get me wrong. I'm going to give him a B. But, like, even with the Jordan Love injury, still they managed to stay composed. They managed to get through that part of the season pretty well. Yeah, I'm going to give him B for that. The Texans, DeMeco Ryans. Definitely a step back. Yeah,
for sure a step back, especially in the regular season. But they made it past the first round of the playoffs. So that alone, I think that deserves a B+, maybe a B.
I'm going to give them a A- for this. Sure, it was not as good as a second year as it was a first year. But definitely on the Texans defense, I can see the physicality and like the actual try-hardiness now.
Yeah.
And that's opposed from last year, which is why I'm bumping it up a little bit. The Colts, Shane Steichen.
This one's a little bit tricky, but I think I'm going to give it an F. Just because the whole quarterback situation.
Yeah, the quarterback situation was bad. They were going in between Joe Flacco and
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. I can see them being good. It's just the quarterback situation can be figured out.
Mm-hmm.
For which reason, I'm gonna give them a D minus. I don't think it warrants an F, but it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
The Jaguars vacant for right now.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Andy Reid.
You know, it was interesting given like a lot of people were calling it like black magic, but I think a lot of that was actually just really good coaching. So I think he gets an A plus because you know his players didn't have their best year, but how well he controlled every game he was in and how like smart he played the clock and like wound it down to the last second and kicked game-winning field goals. He coached everything incredibly.
I agree. I think he should get an A. I think. The only reason I'm going to knock him down a little bit is just because, like, against the Broncos that 1 week where he had to come down to the blocked field goal, plus some other times where it was like, oh, maybe that's a little bit of luck there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, still an excellently close squad. The Raiders, currently vacant. The Chargers, Jim Harbaugh.
A plus, simply because it was his first year and it turned out so well. I mean, their first playoff game wasn't great, but it just, overall, it was just incredible.
I agree. I think he should get an A plus. I mean, he just took a squad that was virtually the same except for like Lad McConkey.
Yeah,
and he just took them all the way to the playoffs.
You know, last year, like you said earlier, they were getting 60 dropped on him by the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. Yeah.
The Rams, Sean McVay.
I think that's an A minus. It wasn't perfect, especially. I mean, it wasn't his fault, all the injuries in the middle of the season, but they still did barely make the playoffs. But once they made it to the playoffs,
was really helpful for some reason.
Yeah, it was, and when they played the Vikings, I think that was just all incredible coaching. Was the reason they won that game.
I'm not gonna rate this one; it's gonna sound biased. So moving on. The Dolphins, Mike McDaniel.
This one
F minus. I mean, look, I understand Tua got hurt.
Yeah.
But despite that, your offense brought in Tyler Huntley, and then it did nothing. And the Ravens proved that with Tyler Huntley, they can still make the playoffs a few years back, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense how they didn't do well. It seems like their organization just took a step backwards, for which reason I'm giving it an F.
I think he deserves more of like a C minus range because, you know, it wasn't just the Tua injury. You know, Tyreek Hill just decided to not be good this year, and it became clear quite quickly that Devon Achane was not at all good at like powering through the middle. So they settled for a lot of field goals in the red zone. That didn't help either. I don't think it was completely his fault.
The Vikings, Kevin O'Connell.
I'm not going to rate this one either for the same reason.
I think he should get a solid B plus. The reason why he's not getting an A is because of course what happened with the Rams, and of course funny thing is they only lost to the Lions and the Rams all season long. But I think the job that he did with Sam Darnold was exceptional.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm giving him a B plus.
Yeah.
He would have gotten an A minus if the Vikings-Rams game was just competitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, a B plus I think is solid for him.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots, Vrabel just got hired. Moving on. Saints currently vacant. Moving on. The Giants, Brian Daboll.
I don't think I'm gonna say like F minus, but it's either like an F plus or a D minus because you know it was an ugly season, but it had occasional bright spots. You know they managed to beat the Seahawks somehow, and also they developed
Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, they developed from Malik Neighbors pretty well. And their defense played decent. I don't think it was the worst season.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was the worst season. I think I'm gonna give this one like a D plus maybe.
Yeah.
All I think they need really now is a solid QB, another wide receiver, a little bit of the O-line. The running back situation with Devin Singletary isn't great, but it'll work for right now.
Yeah.
And the defense has been playing pretty well. I'll give them that. The offense has just not been putting up the points. Once they fix that, I think Dable will be in a better situation. Jets currently vacant. Eagles, Nick Sirianni.
I think this one only deserves an A minus because it was not a good enough season given their roster, and especially like on the defensive side, they had a lot of people that, you know, their secondary looked great, but they had a lot of people that I expected a lot more from going into the season, namely Bryce Huff, and also just a terrible year for Jalen Hurts. Yeah, so I think
I'm going to give this one a solid A. I mean, even despite all of the people blasting them after like week 4 and they were like 2-2, after that they came back. They won like 13 straight. I think that shows a lot about Sirianni himself. For which reason I'm gonna give him the A. If they make the Super Bowl, I think it should just exactly be that A on the dot. But yeah, the A- to A range seems fair to me. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin.
I cannot believe everyone's saying that he deserves to be fired, or that they're never going to make a championship with him when he has 17 straight winning seasons. It wasn't a perfect season. I think I give him like a B or a B plus, but it was still a pretty dang good season considering he had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah, considering that fact, I'm gonna give him the B plus. In the playoffs, all I want to see is just them getting to the divisional, maybe the conference championship.
Yeah.
Super Bowl, a little far off. But if they get that quarterback situation fixed, I think they could be in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends how they start playing in December. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan.
The injury demons hit them really hard this year, so it's not really fair to completely tank this grade, but I'm going to give them like a D plus because, their injuries were not complete. Like, they still had some decent skill. Like, George Kittle looks fantastic. They had plenty of defensive players to work with, and yet it was just a terrible season.
Yeah, I'm going to give this guy a C minus. I mean, it was a good, the first half of the season looked kind of okay. The middle of the season looked really bad, and the end of the season kind of looked okay as well. So for that, I think it should just be C minus. But really, he's not on the hot seat yet. But when the 49ers are going to lose a lot of these skill players soon because of age, and when they do, I think he's going to be really, really, really hot on the hot seat if he can't figure anything out.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, Mike McDonald.
So, like earlier with Jim Harbaugh, it was his first year, so I think I'm going to give him like a B. He almost made the playoffs. The Seahawks had some really hot streaks in there, especially with the 3-0 start. They kind of fell off, but I think that was largely DK Metcalf and Geno Smith's fault, not really the coaching. So, yeah, I think he deserves a B.
I think I'm going to give this one a B as well. I agree with Levi's statements. I think the only really issue with Mike McDonald was sometimes he was calling a weird play at the wrong time, it seemed like. But that's more of a first-year coach thing.
Yeah.
I think he still had a phenomenal season, though. The Buccaneers, Todd Bowles.
I think this deserves at least an A minus. I mean, given how many injuries, losing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in the same game and staying alive and going past the first round of the playoffs by the end of it. And all the mix-ups they had with the running backs in the middle of the year because
they couldn't decide who was good.
Yeah. I mean, that was just kind of a disaster in the middle of the season. The fact that they dug themselves out of that and still won the division was really impressive.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna give it an A. I think phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Phenomenal job. Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan. Don't really know much about him. Didn't really coach this year at all, so we'll move on from him.
Yeah.
Commanders, Dan Quinn. There's only one right answer.
Yeah, I think he absolutely deserves the coach of the year. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
This was an insane season.
This was Pinnacle taking a 4-12 team, turning them into a 12-5 team, plus taking them to the NFC Championship game. I think it's a lock for coach of the year.
Yeah.
If anybody else wins it, it's not going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
This was a phenomenal year by Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
Just absolutely phenomenal. But with that, our time is up. So thank you all for watching today. It means a lot. We'll see y'all next week for Pod 10. Remember, the Lions are frauds. Jared Goff is a fraud. And Dan Campbell is a fraud. See ya.
See ya.